Hello and welcome from Beijing. This is China 24 on CGTN. I'm Wang Mengmang. Coming right up on our show tonight. Chinese President Xi Jinping begins meeting with world leaders as they arrive for the China International Import Expo. A major international trade deal that excludes the U.S. gets much closer to becoming a reality. Headbands that can sense when students aren't paying attention in class seems like a good idea. Not everyone thinks so. And China's lunar rover goes where no human or machine has gone before. We begin our program in Shanghai, where Chinese President Xi Jinping has met with Jamaican Prime Minister Andrew Holness ahead of the China International Import Expo. The two sides have agreed to upgrade relations between China and Jamaica to a strategic partnership. Xi also held meetings with the prime ministers of Greece and Serbia to discuss the development of bilateral ties. Meanwhile, French President Emmanuel Macron has arrived in Shanghai and is also expected to meet with President Xi later. And now let's go to the scene of the big show. After making its debut in Shanghai last year, the China International Import Expo is back again to promote economic cooperation and further open up China's market. Companies from all over the world will be represented, putting themselves in the shop window, so to speak. And now for the very latest, let's go live to our very own Michael Wang.
Well, welcome again to our special coverage of the second China International Import Expo. We are counting down to the official opening of this mega import fair tomorrow, where Chinese President Xi Jinping will attend the opening ceremony and deliver a keynote speech. Now, President Xi is currently holding a banquet for foreign dignitaries on Shanghai's iconic Bund at the Peace Hotel, where he told guests that the CIIE is more than just a platform to exchange goods and services, but also a platform for cultural exchanges and the exchange of ideas. President Xi will also visit the country pavilions, where this year 64 countries and 3 international organizations are also participating. National leaders, including French President Emmanuel Macron, like we've mentioned, have also arrived for the opening ceremony. Well, CGTN's Weilin Tong is here with an update on what we can expect from the expo. Weilin, it's good to see you again. We know the expo has attracted more buyers this year. 500,000 of them from home and abroad are set to be here. Give us a sense first of how exhibitors are preparing, and what are you watching out for as the CIIE gets rolling?
Well, Michael, likewise, it's good to see you again as well. So the second CIIE, has attracted repeated participation of many companies from last year's inaugural expo, but it's also attracted many companies that will be participating in the second CIIE for the very first time. So they're looking to either enter the Chinese market, or for companies that are already present here in China, they're looking to expand their businesses here. So this is going to be a huge business matchmaking platform. We're talking about 3,000 enterprises from 150 countries and regions expected here at the expo. Now, to understand more about the expectations from the first timers, I'm going to bring in my guest for today, Desireen Lim, who is the Assistant General Manager of OSIM International in charge of North Asia, right?
Yeah, that's right. Hi, really nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, and thank you for joining us on the show, Desireen.
Thanks for inviting me.
So OSIM is going to be participating in the second CIIE for the very first time,
Yep.
But it is not new in China, right? It's got, I think the stores that you have here make up about half of the stores you have worldwide. So what exactly is OSIM seeking to achieve in terms of specific outcomes from this expo?
Okay, actually, in fact, for OSIM, we are in the market since 1993, setting our first store in Beijing. In 1993. So right now we have about 180 stores in about 38 cities around China. So this is our first time as doing the expo, and I feel it's a very good way to know the market, because the expo is actually a nationwide event. Yep, and there are so many companies joining in. So I think it's a good chance for us to expand our presence in China to let more people know about brand presence and also market our products to them.
How exactly is OSIM looking to expand your presence?
Okay, right now we are already in our first and second tier cities with 180 stores, but we are also looking at even more partnerships with B2B or B2C consumers in the market. Yeah, so it's a very good way for us to get to know even much more companies in the CIIE event.
Right, but beyond the first tier and second tier cities, right, the smaller cities, I mean, it's a different ball game operating there because different, market segments. So what are your strategies in terms of really, penetrating the markets right there?
Okay, for OSIM in China, probably different tier cities, we have different strategies. Like for the first tier and second tier cities, we probably market even much higher end of products, even like the right range of products. But for the third tier or fourth tier cities, we are not in yet. But before we go in, we probably have to observe the market itself and see how to expand into the market. So for them, we have to observe like their spending power in terms of their shopping malls in there, whether they are high-end enough for us and things like that. So these are the strategies that we need to observe. Yeah.
Right. I think we should also probably tell our audience, right, that OSIM, I mean, for those who may not have heard of OSIM, it's actually a Singaporean company, and you mainly actually manufacture massage chairs. Yes. Right?
Yeah. We are actually the Asia #1 brand. In fact, I think it should be the #1 brand for OSIM in the massage chair brands. Yeah. And in fact, Sinovate has listed us as the #1 brand that people will think of when they want to buy OSIM.
But even then, you're still participating in the CIIE as a platform to market further. So very quickly as well, the broader picture in China, the Chinese economy is slowing down. So, I mean, are you feeling the consumption pinch? What are you assessing in terms of market demand here in China?
Okay, I think the economy is very challenging right now. I think from all the different happenings around the world. But I think it's also a good chance for us to penetrate in, because that's when people start to think of like challenges. I think, but they will not stop thinking about taking care of their health. I think health is a very important thing. Without health, you can't do anything at all. Yeah, so right now we are actually doing a lot of different range of products that caters to different brands and different budgets and to their solutions.
And as consumers right now, I mean, they're still looking for things that are of value, right?
Yes,
in this economic conditions.
Yes, that's right. And that's why we are actually moving on into like installment plans for our younger market. Right now for OSIM, our consumers are actually quite young, between like 25 to 40 years old consumers. Previous many years ago, whereby they probably are older. But right now, yes, consumers are really, the younger consumers, they are really taking care of their health.
That's right. I should probably get a massage chair myself.
You should. Okay. Without health, you can't do anything at all.
Final question, Desiree, right? So how much more important will the Chinese market be to OSIM?
Oh, it's very, very important, because it's like what my boss said, if you lose China, you lose the world.
Oh my God, that's
yes, so China is a very important market to all the different brands in the world, and I think everyone is like looking into penetrating into China market itself.
Great. Yeah. Thank you so much, Desiree.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thanks very much.
Right, Michael, so again, Desiree, had a really good saying, if you lose out China, you actually lose out in the world. So lots to expect in the next few days as we keep you updated on what's the latest here at the second CIIE. For now, back to you, Michael.
All right, many thanks for the update, CGTN's Weilin Tang, and thanks also to your guest, Desiree Lim of Singapore's OSIM. Well, like Weilin mentioned, more than 3,000 companies from over 150 countries and regions will be represented at this year's expo. Let's take a closer look at what's on display for this year.
63 countries, in addition to China, as well as 3 international organizations, will have a presence at the show. 24 nations are joining for the first time. 39 are attending again. The international flavor will be felt through the country's many exhibit themes. Russia has brought a car that is the same as the one used by President Vladimir Putin. The country is also displaying a new passenger plane model. At the Greece exhibit, people can see jewelry made from ancient coins and walk in a virtual reality version of the Santorini resort island. Last year's hotspot, Peru, once again has its huge alpaca dolls, and no one can resist a sip of Peru's national drink, the pisco cocktail.
Well, whether through online or offline, goods from abroad are finding their way all across China, beyond the well-known major cities too. CGTN's Niu Hong took a trip to a city over in China's Hebei province to find out more.
The terrain from Malaysia and drinks from Europe. Abundant variety and cheap prices make this supermarket, One Life Plus Bagel Global Product Store, a hot place for locals.
I used to buy things online, but the retail store is more reliable, especially since it often has discounts.
The city of Shijiazhuang is regarded as a second-tier Chinese city, with a population of around 10 million. As store manager Guo Miao says, imported product trends, especially in daily necessities, remain strong.
The growth rate is very considerable. We now have more optimized brands and varieties. In our supermarket, the annual sale of imported products is rising over 20%.
To compete with China's booming e-commerce, One Life introduced the products popular on the internet to attract more young consumers. It has also opened a channel for cross-border online shopping, where consumers can pay online and have products delivered to their homes. Years ago, import supermarkets could only be seen in major cities in China, but growing consumer groups and changing preferences in China is making supermarkets like this one increasingly popular among China's rising middle class. The composition of consumer groups is changing as well. People born in the 1990s and early 2000s are now regarded as leading consumers. Multiple online and offline channels are giving young people more choices. Participating in the China International Import Expo is, as Guo puts it, a golden opportunity to find ideal products.
We can see the products, the material, as well as the culture at the expo. It helps us to identify a product that fits the consumer's needs.
One Life now has over 1,000 brands from across the world, and the number continues to rise. Ning Hong, CGTN, Hebei Province.
For more on the second CIIE, let's bring in Luigi Gambardella. He is the president of China EU, an international business association based over in Brussels. Luigi, welcome to Shanghai and welcome to the second CIIE.
Good evening.
So we know that French President Emmanuel Macron will be here for the opening ceremony tomorrow. What do you think is the significance, the importance of President Macron being here at the CIIE? And it almost seems like to me, Luigi, that this is not just about China-France ties, but also a boost for China-EU ties as well.
Yes, you are right. I think that, first of all, we have to recognize that Macron understands very well the importance of China. And if I'm not wrong, in the last 3 years, Macron met President Xi Jinping 6 times. And this shows the commitment of Macron with China. Why this visit is important? I think that Macron here has 2 hats. The hats of France, because he's the president of France, but also the hats of EU. It's very interesting to note that in his delegation, part of this delegation will be 1 future commissioner for trade and 1 minister from Germany. And this shows the fact that Macron is not here only for France, but he wants to represent in a certain way the whole EU. And let me say that this is important also because in this moment Macron has an advantage you compare with other European leaders, that is very strong at home. And this is important. I would say that from my point of view, Macron has 3 main objectives. First, show that he can be the link with Europe himself. Second, that Macron would like to have a unified voice of Europe, a unified position vis-à-vis with China, and I think this is important. But at the same time, Macron is also a pragmatic leader, so he wants to increase the business. As far as understood, he will be announced many new deals for French companies.
Well, let's zoom in a little bit more on the China-France economic relationship. Last year, this bilateral trading relationship topping $60 billion US. Last year, we had some 2,300,000 Chinese tourists going over to France, so there is a very solid economic foundation here. Do you think, Luigi, that China and France can translate this economic foundation into more cultural cooperation between the 2 sides and the 2 peoples?
Yes, I would put the issue in another way around. I would say that a strong cultural link will benefit the business. And the strong cultural link that there are between France and China, but there are also between Europe and China, will help to boost the business. And we know that Macron will inaugurate here in Shanghai Centre Pompidou, and we know, very important, that in 2021 there will be the year of culture and tourism, because there is a very strong link between culture and tourism, and we know that France is the one of the first countries in the world for tourism.
Yeah, well, this year also marks 55 years of the establishment of diplomatic relations between France and the People's Republic of China, so the future looks bright. Many thanks for your perspectives on this, Mr. Luigi Gambardella, President of China Eve. Good to see you again.
Thank you very much.
Well, just ahead of the opening of the second CIIE, CGTN caught up with a number of global business leaders and policymakers from abroad to get their take on this year's event. Take a listen.
There is a big improvement. You know, because this is my second term in China. When I first came in 2007, you know, our export to China was only 37 million US dollars. Okay, after 12 years, you know, our export to China is now close to 240 million US dollars. So there's a big improvement. How many percentage?
Chinese market has discovered the wine in the last 10 years and at the beginning through entry-level wines, and now it's more and more increasing. People want to understand what they taste, they want to know the region, so that's why we have decided to invest a lot of energy on the Chinese market.
We are now gearing up for the second China International Import Expo, having in mind this experience from last year. 8 companies registered to present their goods on the market, and as the last year, Croatian Chamber of Economy is organizing a delegation of companies to come as well as visitors at the expo as well.
And that's it for us for now. Just a reminder, we'll have live coverage of the official opening of the second CIIE tomorrow, where President Xi Jinping will deliver a keynote speech. A feast of ideas on global economic governance will also be on display tomorrow at the Hongqiao International Economic and Trade Forum. 5 parallel forums with topics ranging from WTO reform to AI to creating optimal business environments. So lots on tap for tomorrow, lots to cover for tomorrow. But for now, it is back to you in the studios in Beijing. Meng Meng.
Thanks so much, Michael, and we look forward to hearing more from you in the coming days. Well, you've been watching China 24. Coming up next. India holds out on trade talks at the ASEAN summit, but a deal could be around the corner. Plus, controversy arises over high-tech headbands that can sense when students are paying attention in class. Now let's get the latest on the ASEAN summit. Let's go live to our correspondent Martin Low in Bangkok. Hello there, Martin. Well, we heard of breakthroughs as well as stumbling blocks. Tell us more about what's going on there at the RCEP summit this evening.
Well, the major development here is that tonight ASEAN leaders are claiming success in brokering the world's biggest trade deal. Now, in fact, that's not exactly what's happened, but they did come pretty close. So near and yet so far for the world's biggest trade deal. A so-called snub to Asia by Donald Trump. And talks on the US-China tariff war. These were the highlights of the 35th ASEAN summit in Bangkok. Backing the trade deal, Chinese Premier Li Keqiang had urged Asian cooperation against global instability. But in the end, it seems India is holding out for better terms, scuppering the signing of the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, a pact seeking to unite the 10 countries of ASEAN with 6 more, including China, India and Japan, but notably not the US. New impetus to reach agreement had come from the US-China trade war, which has cut regional economic growth to its lowest in 5 years.
I think it's the normal practice for the negotiation team from India. On the very last stage, they always like ask for more, just a little bit, you know, because asking is better than just, you know, keep mouth shut, right? Because asking, if you get it, you get it. If you don't get it, okay, you go to square one.
At one point, President Trump was tipped to attend this summit. In the end, he didn't come, sending low-ranking officials in his place. To many, this was a sign that the US couldn't be counted on. It was even called a snub by some. One ASEAN commentator said, "It shows we're not a priority for the US." Progress on a code of conduct for the South China Sea, an urging to address the issue of Rohingya Muslims displaced from Myanmar, and talks on safeguarding the future of the Mekong River were also among a raft of regional topics discussed. But a delay to the trade deal is a disappointment. ASEAN now hopes the pact can be signed sometime next year. Now, negotiators say that they have made some concessions to India in an attempt to get them on board, and as a result, 17 out of 20 clauses in that deal have now been agreed. Close enough, it seems, for those leaders to claim a successful conclusion. Now, earlier here, ASEAN re-snubbed Donald Trump. At one point, it was thought that Mr. Trump would be attending this summit. In the end, he didn't come. He didn't send his vice president. He didn't send his secretary of state. What he did send, in many people's view, was a much more lower-ranking team. Now, as a result of that, many ASEAN members saw that as a snub. And at an ASEAN-US summit today, 7 out of 10 country leaders themselves didn't attend. Only 3 leaders attended. The others sent ministers instead. Now, one diplomat said it's not appropriate for us to send leaders when the US is not sending people on an equal level. Donald Trump, in turn, or is it to make amends, has now in fact invited all ASEAN leaders to visit him in the US next year.
Martin, that's our Martin Lowe live for us from Bangkok. And now let's get some more insights from our guest, Professor Sung Qingrun. He's an associate professor at the China Institute of Contemporary International Relations. Great to have you with us here, Professor. So parties are hoping to sign on to this RCEP agreement early next year, but as we heard, there are, of course, obstacles and stumbling blocks. So this pact is not only about trade, but also multilateralism. How do you think it'll help boost cooperation and deepen regional integration in practice?
In recent years, both in Asia region and also in the world, we face strong trade protectionism. And now, in recent years, and also we are happy to see that ASEAN plays a very active role to coordinate its partner countries to put forward the regional economic integration process. For example, ASEAN biggest action is that it actively coordinates other six more partner countries to negotiate the RCEP agreement. If this agreement could be reached next year, there will be the biggest free trade bloc in this region, and it will boost both the regional and also the world economy a lot. And this will show that both ASEAN and other regional countries are making joint efforts to combat the trade protectionism and to promote the multilateralism.
That will certainly be a huge deal and a huge success. Thank you so much, Professor Sung, for your insight. And in today's China Watch, we take a look at controversies behind a new technology meant to improve students' learning efficiency. The Chinese tech company BrainCo has denied it uses electronic headbands to monitor students, but rather to improve concentration. The response comes after a report in the Wall Street Journal raised concerns. Let's take a look at the story.
It may look like a scene coming from a science fiction story, but it's actually in a primary school in Jinhua, East China's Zhejiang province. A recent report by the Wall Street Journal suggested that the school used AI-powered headbands to monitor students and violated personal data privacy. It also says the device generates real-time alerts on students' attention spans and gives an analysis afterwards. According to the company that developed this device, BrainCo, this product can help students to be more engaged in class and aid teachers in tailoring their teaching methods. After using the devices for half a semester, the teacher said the class showed better test results and performance.
上课回答我的问题，就是他们的声音会比平常更响亮。
However, The tech firm soon found itself in controversy after people online began expressing concerns. Many asked whether student data is protected and whether this is all worth in the name of efficiency. Others expressed support for the concept and said it takes time for people to accept new technology. After the controversy erupted, the local education bureau said the student used the device with their parents' consent, and the primary school has stopped the use of headbands. Brainco said in a statement the product was developed as a training aid to improve attention spans, and the data collected would not be sent to students' parents. It's not the first time that new classroom technology has raised eyebrows in China. Last year, a school in Shanghai used AI systems to track students' performance in class, which also raised controversy. Experts believe while these devices may make education more convenient, new laws and ethical practices will be needed to keep up.
Well, the company Brainco describes its headband as using real-time brainwave feedback and visualization. Its applications are not limited to education, and they could also be used in fitness and wellness. And here's how it works. The headband or any other device's brain scanning functions use sensors to detect brain signals. It then uses an AI algorithm to translate the signals into a depiction of the person's level of focus in real time. And this is not totally new, and these concepts go far back as 1924 when discoveries were made by German psychiatrist Hans Berger. It all relies on detection of electrical fields produced by brain activities, so-called neurotransmissions. A human brain is home to nearly 100 billion neurons, and they allow you to react to signals. In short, the brain receives an electrical signal, and this causes neural pulses through synapses. And this in turn generates an electrical field that is detectable by sensors on the scalp. And now we want to get some more discussions, and we are joined by Duolan, Research Associate from Institute of Education at Tsinghua University, and also by Zhang Shengnan, Chief Education Specialist at Brainco. Welcome to you both, ladies. Now, so what were Brainco's initial goals in developing this headband, and what is your reaction to this controversy right now?
So the goal of developing Focus EDU, which is the classroom engagement tool that we saw, is really to help teachers and students, the two most important groups in classroom. Bill Gates once mentioned in a 2013 very famous TED Talk that the only one feedback number that teachers are able to get in their career life is just one satisfaction rate every year. And there's really no more honest feedback in how well their teaching materials is working on their students. So we want to use this technology to support teachers to better prepare their teaching materials with the average attention as a feedback. And secondly, for students, we actually want to improve their concentration and get them well prepared before each class starts by doing a series of neurofeedback training games to improve their focused attention. So it's really a tool to help teachers to teach better and help students to learn better. And there's no ranking for the students, no data reporting to parents or data used in any way without consent.
But still, they are being censored for their performance there. So let's get some insight from Ms. Duo. The use of electronic headbands in the classroom is raising concerns. What are your thoughts as an educator?
Thank you so much for having me here today. And so we often hear about the rejuvenating our country through science and technology, and this term has been suggested in the policy paper for about 23 or 24 years already. And indeed, technology facilitates the development of education, and it really helps education in certain ways. For example, the technology, the content itself. We know that in so many classes in primary school and middle school, we have the artificial intelligence courses, and we have the programming courses. And besides, we also have the technology application that's using the large data and to help analyze the students' data to actually insist in their learning. So this is technology itself is truly helping an education. But of course, there are concerns. One is obviously the how much do we actually respect and really think about the students' right, and especially in this young age. And we have to think about how much do they have the right to say yes or no to these questions, or the teachers and parents are deciding for them. So this is actually something we have to really careful about. Second, concern is actually about the efficiency. So education is actually a process. So how much do we want them to really so concentrating and so efficient? And what age stage do we actually want them to be so efficient? So this is also a very important concern we have to consider.
All right, and now let's go over some more of the possibilities for brain-machine interfaces in education. And why would people be motivated to accept these technologies in their lives, Ms. Zhang?
So we see the future of BMI technology in many promising ways. Firstly, we're using BMI to help people with learning challenges such as ADHD and autism to come back to normal education and life. Neuroscience researchers has shown significant benefits of using our training methods to improve cognitive functioning, and our technology is used in teams such as Olympic teams and also Formula car racers to improve their concentration. And secondly, we're using BMI also to help people who are physically handicapped to come back to education and employment through our AI and BMI-empowered prosthetic limb. So we see this technology benefiting human body and human brain much better, while other new techs are actually trying to make our cameras take higher definition pictures or help our cars run faster. So we really believe in the future of BMI using in benefiting human beings.
Ms. Dorr just mentioned that, well, she raised a question that if individuals have the choice over the use of technologies in their educations and lives, as education becomes increasingly connected to technology, many people are concerned it will alter the nature of human development and perhaps opportunities in life. So, Ms. Dorr, should there be a limit to the combination of the two?
Well, first of all, the development of technology is progressive. It's developmental. It's not something we can just call off and then stop it. Neither the development of the technology nor the combination between technology and education. But when we combine these two together, it's really something really complicated, because in education we always say the education process is a black box. That we don't know how students learn and then at what stage they actually improved. We have a Chinese saying would say that sometimes someone just have a sudden enlightenment or something like that, and then it's more like telling us that education is sometimes not actually a linear progress. So technology has been really powerful, and with its innovative nature helps a lot in education, and this is something we really need in this world today. But at the same time, and it has to be really careful because of the nature of education, is when we want to generalize it or implement it, we have to really cautious and rigorous about the ways and then we're using to implement it, such as we have to do a really rigorous pilot study first, and years of experiences and things like this. So I think as long as we're cautious enough, and the development of the technology would be really helpful to education.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, ladies, for giving us both sides of the argument, Ms. Dorr Lan and Ms. Zhang Shengnan. Well, just ahead on China 24. Digital reporter Sun Tianyuan takes us to a hot underground cultural scene for today's China Buzz.
welcome to today's China Buzz. I'm Sun Tianyuan. Let's start with an underground story that involves a bomb shelter and a hot and spicy Chinese cuisine. A man in Tianshui, northwestern China's Gansu province, has turned a 150-meter wartime bomb shelter into a hot-pot mecca for local foodies. A year ago, Wang De-wen paid a visit to a national education center and bomb shelter, and after that, the man thought, why don't I turn one of these into a restaurant? So out of all the foods in the world, and he chose one of the heaviest fumes and smells. I can practically smell it through the screen, but the man insists ventilation is not a problem. So make sure you don't get lost in his hot pot labyrinth. I doubt even our latest 5G networks can reach that deep. And to the Shennongjia National Park in Hubei province, home of Chinese Bigfoot. But in this case, we're not talking about a sighting of the legendary ape-like creature. Here's something real. Researchers have captured a rare video of an albino muntjac, a type of deer. Oddly enough, albino animals are a mysterious phenomenon in Shennongjia. Scientists have discovered at least 20 kinds of animals with albinism there, including white black bears and white snakes and even white crows. But hey, here's my favorites elsewhere in Sichuan province, a white panda, looking like someone who got their dark circles under their eyes removed. And finally, an interesting fact from history. Chinese used business cards well before the paper kinds were invented. And 2,000 years ago, the cards were made of wood or bamboo. It was considered proper social etiquette to write down the reason one sold to an audience and deliver the card prior to visiting someone's house. And owners of these big houses would hire servants to wait at a door and pass the cards so they could decide whether to meet a guest or not. And 2,000 years later, if you want to make an acquaintance, just ask for their WeChat ID. So I wonder how people in the 41st century would think our QR codes in their age.
Well, thank you so much, and great stuff there, Tianyuan. China's lunar project has been going smoothly since its Chang'e 4 probe landed on the moon in January. The latest images show that its rover Yutu-2 has driven nearly 320 meters on the far side of the moon. The area remains a blank spot for human knowledge, as it always faces away from Earth. And that's almost the end of today's show. We'd love to hear from you with any thoughts and comments. You can email us at china24@cgtn.com. And now we leave you with the New Year Parade in Leishan County in southwest China's Guizhou province, home of the Miao ethnic group. I'm Wang Mengmeng in Beijing. Thank you for watching.